I started right after Labor Day. In the course of this 6-month time period, I have learned a lot and still learn a lot each day. And one of the very interesting things that I discovered, and I knew just a little about, was beginning in 2002 and through the crop year 2007, the district actually did conduct an irrigation assessment program. And in 2002, from what I've been able to tell and the data, there were about 41 sites originally monitored, and then in 2007, 128 sites. So that tells me that there were a number of interested producers in this program. And in that program, the district staff measured the flow rate of an irrigation system and the run time in hours. There weren't many meters out at that time, obviously. And then also performed a quick water analysis test for the producer related to the conductivity of the source water and then also pH. The latter years, particularly 5, 6, and 7 of the program, there were actually a number of producers that also supplied their yield data. And so you wound up with a pretty good data set related to the return per acre of applied water. The district calculated the estimated irrigation application from the run time and the measured flow rate in the irrigation system. All of this to say that we're reinstating the program for the 2014 crop year. For those that are willing to cooperate would be interested, we would have an additional piece of information giving that producer the ability to say, well, if I use 10 inches of water or 12 inches, my water levels responded in X fashion. We're hopeful to get a number of people enrolled in this for the 2014 crop year. In the years 2002 through 7, the irrigation assessment program then conducted by the district. For a null value, obviously, no data was collected for that crop this year, on that particular year. In the notes, just a quick overview that these averages were calculated district-wide. So if you looked at cotton, there may have been cotton fields in Hockley County and Lamb County and Dale County and so on. And they were averaged to come up with that value each respective year. Almost all the counties within the district during this time period were involved in the program. There were participating sites. Obviously, Swisher County was not in the district at that time. And maybe like that small portion of Armstrong County did not have a site. But by and large, we had good coverage across the district with the program. So we visited with our board and some others, and we believe there's continued interest in it. We have a number of county committeemen, somewhere around 90, that the board has reactivated, and we believe there's a number of those members that will also be interested in participating in this. One last note, and I'm done, and that is at a board meeting recently, and I think it was the January board meeting, we had a discussion of the estimated applied water by crop in each county within the district. And each year in Texas, the Texas Water Development Board performs a calculated estimate of crop average irrigation application across the state. So they then send those to the corresponding groundwater conservation districts, where there are districts, and say, we'd like for you to review these and provide us feedback. Are these accurate? Are they inaccurate? And so we're hopeful too that some continued data sets like this will give us the ability to supply them accurate numbers. These then go on into various facets of water planning at both the regional and state levels. So they have meaning. Bottom line is, and we've talked about this in the district too, you know, if you're not gathering and collecting and proofing your own data, you know, someone is developing numbers in the state of Texas anymore for all related water matters. And so your greatest comfort level should occur whenever you have a quality program in place that you're conducting and gathering that. So, excuse me, that's a brief overview, and thank you again.
For most of y'all probably know me, I'm James Powell. I've been an ag consultant for about 30 plus years. We'll leave it at that. But today I'm going to take off my consultant's hat and I'm going to put on my water district hat. The district covers about 7.5 million acres, and there's approximately 99 and in the process of adding some new districts, and about 62 or 3 or 4 of our districts across the state are single county districts. I'd like to point out that we are a political subdivision of the state of Texas. We are a taxing entity, and just for point of reference, Chapter 36, which is basically the Texas Water Code, it allows districts up to 50 cents per $100 of value. Currently, the district is at 0.00875. Is that correct, Jason? 81 per $100 value. So we're very much below that. So we do have a 5-member board. Our new manager, and I'd like to point out that Jason, who came to the board in September, is by no means a rookie. He has 14 plus years in service to Water District, primarily there in Brownfield, South Plains Water District. So we're really happy to have Jason. He's come to the district. He's made a lot of changes, in my opinion, to the positive, and so we're trying to make a lot of changes within the district, not only the staff but the services to our constituents. Another thing that I'd like to point out, and everybody can read this, but some of the things we've reinstated the county committees, which is something that kind of went into dormancy there for a few years. Originally, the county committees were responsible for signing well permits. When those well permits came to the district, and the county committees kind of really didn't have a purpose until here of late. So we have reactivated the county committees. Okay, on the DFC, I'm going to progress a little bit here. Does anybody know, do you really know what the DFC is? This was handed down, I believe, in 2005 or just prior to that, that all water districts will develop a desired future condition for the aquifer, and this includes some of the groundwater management areas that help develop this with the geologists. Our district, the High Plains, actually sits under 2 of these groundwater management areas, which is groundwater management area 1 to the north and groundwater management area 2 to the south. Again, getting back to the DFC was set up through these groundwater management areas, hydrologists for our district, and they best determined that a 50-50 DFC, or 50% of the aquifer, left in 50 years. Now, along with this, about every 5 years, the district under law is required to go back in and revisit the DFC based on hydrology. So every 5 years, we are required to go back in here, revisit the DFC, and see whether or not we need to change that or not. This is a 50-year horizon, so every 5 years, the DFC goes back another 50 years, so you're never going to get to the end of the line with this DFC as it's currently set up. Okay, along with the DFC, and if you look at the DFC and the management plan and then the district rules, the way I kind of look at it, it's a 3-legged stool. So all 3 legs need to be able to stand in order for the stool to maintain its upright position. At any time, if you lose one of these legs or they get kicked out, then the stool falls apart. And this is where the management plan comes in, because the management plan is designed through the groundwater management areas to support the DFC. And so from the management plan, we devised the rules for the district. Of course, everybody's heard about Rule 5, the amount of water, metering, reporting, and contiguous acres. Currently, the board is working on revising these rules, and it, again, is a 3-part deal, with the centerpiece being the 18-inch APR, allowable production rate. If you look at the middle part, the way we measure either meters with alternate methods. Another one that we've come up with is the one crop certification, and we're working on this. Again, none of this is in stone yet, but the district is working real hard to solidify these, and we have basically prior to the end of the year to bring a new set of rules. We're working with the county committees. We're going to a lot of meetings on education and trying to get more and more producers in the area to understand what the requirements are of the district and our obligations to the citizens in the district. The other part of this triangle here is the contiguous acre classification. I'm going to touch real brief on the contiguous acres, and there's been a lot of confusion over the years, but we're trying to make this a little more producer friendly, so to speak. The one part or the change is the pipelines, and we had a lot of input on this through the areas primarily around Slayton and others, where there were permanent pipelines. They were shifting water, say, from number 4 and number 5, where the water was, over to number 3, for example. And so the district is looking real close at adding this part of the contiguous acre as compared with the way it currently is in the rules. Okay, here we are, 18 inches. This is kind of the center part. What does 18 inches mean? Well, when you look at an acre inch of water, that's 27,154 gallons per acre. When you look at 120 acres at the 18-inch rule, that's 58 million gallons, and I don't know how many people have actually looked at that, but that's 58 million gallons of water applied to that. Now, can anybody in the room right now, real quick, tell me, if you put on 1 acre inch on 120 acres, how many gallons did you pump? 3 minutes. So when you look at it, you know, that kind of really seems like a whole lot of water to me. Now when you compare it, and a lot of people do, they compare things to the city of Lubbock. But when you look at the amount of water that the average citizen uses, on average through the year, is 147 gallons per day. In the summer, 195. During this time of the year, about 121. So when you look at the city of Lubbock, that's 16 billion gallons of water use per year for the city of Lubbock. Now, how do the two compare? When you look at the city of Lubbock using 16 billion gallons of water per year, how does that compare to on-farm use? Well, that's the equivalent of somewhere around 275 120 acre center pivots pumping 18 inches of water. I think that the agricultural area supports the city, and the city in return should support the agricultural community. Okay, let's look real quick, and this is probably the more interesting part from a consultant standpoint, is what would 18 inches do on a cotton crop? As Dr. Creed has already pointed out, a lot of information, which is when you look at 18 inches applied to a cotton crop, somewhere in the neighborhood of 65 to 100 pounds per acre inch, you're looking at 11 to 1,800 pounds of lint cotton. Of course, everybody knows this depends on weather, the variety, management, fertility, and in a lot of cases, a lot of luck. When you look at corn, it's a very similar trend. Again, variety selection, all but about for every 10 bushels, maybe a little bit less, depending on again, those factors listed below. You're looking at approximately 180 bushels. On wheat, somewhere about 5 bushels per acre inch, or a potential of 90 bushels. When you look at grain sorghum, a very similar trend, about 500 pounds per acre inch of available moisture, and you're looking at between 3,000 and 9,000 pounds on milo. When it comes to peanuts, this is a crop that I've worked with for a number of years, and I still don't think that any of us have a real good handle on how to truly manage water on peanuts. In my opinion, it rivals, and in some cases it actually exceeds water needs that corn usually does. Because typically we continue to water peanuts all the way into October just prior to digging. So that's a pretty big window of irrigation. My take-home message to my fellow consultants, and I'll put that hat back on. Guys, I really think that water management, whatever tool that you yourself want to embrace as far as a management to help work with your producers on their water use efficiency, I think this is a real big opportunity for you. Now, back on the water district standpoint, guys, we still have local control, or we're allowed to have local control. And in the absence of our engagement and working with the producers and citizens of our district, then the alternative is something that we really do not like to think about. Our water issues are our lifeblood in the Lubbock area, in this district, and it's something that I think is very worth fighting for.
Thank you. Like I said, my name is Brady Hinson. Work here in Lubbock for eco-drip irrigation. I kind of bounce between all the stores that we have up north, back west, and sometimes up in Nebraska when my boss makes me go. But there's a lot of capacitance probes out there. I'm sure y'all are beginning to notice that a lot of your producers are picking them up, and maybe you're not comfortable helping your producer interpret the data. So that's kind of what this presentation is about. Some of the questions that a lot of farmers have: how much should I pre-water? How much moisture is in my profile? How does moisture move in my soil? Should I shut off after that rain event? How deep are my roots? And am I pushing fertilizer at the bottom of my profile? You know, like I said, there's a lot of capacitance probes out there. Ours is called the HPACC. There's Aqua Spy, John Deere has a moisture probe. They're all capacitance probes. They all work the same. Believe it or not, I'm not gonna sell you right now. Come talk to me at the booth. I'll sell you then. But the only difference is how you interpret the data, how easy it is to understand. Because if you don't understand how it works, then there's really no use in you having it. So this is our moisture probe. It's got 6 sensors on the 40-inch probe. It's got a sensor at 4, 8, 16, 24, 32, and 40 inches. Telemetry unit. Most all the probes have a telemetry unit. It's got a solar panel. It's got a cell phone modem inside this box. And every 30 minutes, this box wakes up, takes a reading from the moisture probe attached to it, sends it to the internet, and it goes back to sleep. 30 minutes later, it does the same thing. So then you get graphs on the website. Field capacity versus field saturation, but it ties into a little illustration that I have. So I'm just going to run through it real quick. Again, I'm sure you already know this, but field capacity, gravity has pulled all the water from the largest pores. The smallest pores hold the water against gravity, while the larger pores are filled with air. Field saturation, the soil is essentially flooded. All pores in the soil contain water. So here's my little illustration. So I said that we had 6 inches on this probe. Now this is about pre-water right here on drip. So we got 16, 24, 32, and 40 inches are our bottom 4 sensors. Let's look at those. Let's let those represent a water tower and overflow spout. So what happens when we start irrigating? We fill it up to where it's saturated, where that level is essentially flooded. Gravity takes over, goes down to the next one. Same thing, 24, 32, cut off irrigation. 16 goes down to field capacity, that's where we want it. 40 starts filling up, and this is an ideal scenario to where we cut it off just in time to where 40 is full and we're not pushing moisture past 40 inches. Here's where it ties into. So this is 30 days worth of data we're looking at. This is drip irrigation again. And this is a pre-water season. So if we look, there's our 4-inch sensor. Not a lot happened. There's ways to combat that. So there's our 4-inch. Here's our 8-inch. We see a little bump right there. But if we look at our 16-inch, so we see it fill all the way to the top to where it can't hold anymore. Gravity takes over. It starts to fall. As soon as it starts to fall, 24 starts going up. As soon as 24 starts going up, 32 starts going up. As soon as the 32 fills up, 40 starts going up. So what we're looking for is for the 40-inch to fill up and then level off. That's how we kind of know that we got our profile full and we're not wasting any moisture. Irrigation recommendation table. Let's go ahead and look at the bottom one right there. West Church. It's showing that I'm at 66.26 and it's green. So what does that mean? So let's go to this again. So here's our field capacity line. Here's our 60% plant available water. So since field capacity is as high as we want to get, let's call it 100%. And since 60% plant available water is as low as we want to get, let's call that 0% for this table. So West Church, he's at 66.26%. So he's about somewhere around 80% plant available water. Irrigation recommendation, 1.23 inches. That's not what I should set my pivot for. That's how much moisture I need in the ground at this very minute to get to 100%. You don't always want to be at 100%, but it's a good rule of thumb, pretty good guesstimate, I call it. So how plants uptake water. This is pivot irrigation. What we're looking at here, here's an irrigation. So we see that line spike up. Again, this is the sun graph, all 6 of those sensors added together. The plants use most of their moisture during the day, they rest at night. We see a stair step here, you can see that. This is drip irrigation. You know, since we're giving it a little bit of moisture every day, we're not going to see those big stair steps. You don't want to. We're just seeing, you know, real nice and steady. Got a few rains there, so we're actually catching up right there, but it's just real flat, and that's what we're looking for. You know, if we're only wanting to give it a certain amount of water a day and we don't want to exceed that, you know, then we don't want to be either going down or we don't want to be going up, just kind of flat line. But that rain really helped us out there. How much moisture is in my profile? So in 30 days, this is 30 days worth of data. This is the driest that it reached. It looks pretty dry, but if we look at this, the sun graph, you know, it really only got down to 80% plain available water, not that dry at all. We see an irrigation right there, and there, but what we're actually seeing is we're seeing a pretty good bump every time that pivot passes over that probe down deep, down to 40 inches. You know, there's not a whole lot of root activity. It's already full down there, so there's really no sense in adding more moisture to it, because at that point, all you're doing is pushing your fertilizer down, your moisture down, and wasting moisture. 2 fields, 1 water source. I'm sure you all see this a lot. I know I do. You got a corn field, you got a milo field. Both fields need water. Which one's going to get it? Probably 95% of the time, the corn's going to get it. But you know, by scheduling planting dates to offset peak water demands, using a moisture probe in each field, good fields are attainable on both fields. How deep are my roots? On the sun graph, I was talking about the stair steps that we see. On the separate levels graph, the way you can tell if there's roots there is you look for stair steps, because those roots are going to pull moisture during the day and rest at night. So we see, you know, a whole lot of activity up there. You see every time the stair steps down, there's roots at that zone. How to know your probe is working correctly. I'll put a few of these on here just so you'll see if your probe was installed correctly. That way you're not second guessing yourself. These are things to look out for. The way we install these probes is I have an auger the same size, a little bit bigger than my probe. I auger the hole, then I get the soil from that hole, mix it with some water, make a slurry, and then I pour that back into the hole, and then I shove my probe in and get as tight as fit as possible. So if you have a uniform fit all the way up to the probe, you should have, at the beginning, at least the first 2 or 3 days, they should all be pretty close to each other. See 2 of your lines way off from your other ones, you might be to start asking some questions and maybe see if you can reinstall that probe. On the website and on your probes, you should see a last update. And that's real important, because if you're looking at your data and it's say it's July 30th, and you think you're looking at July 30th data, but it's actually stopped working 2 weeks ago because somebody hit it. The only way you can tell is by looking at the date. The lines are still going to be there, but you have to make sure that all of these dates are within, you know, an hour or 2 of the time you're looking at right there. On each one of these probes that we install, there are different soil types, different environments, so I have to calibrate each probe differently. You know, a heavy clay is going to read a heck of a lot different than a light sand. That's really all I have. If y'all have any questions, feel free to shout them out. I'll do my best to answer them.